Hi guys, my name is Kelly. I'm a traditionally and independently published author of more than 30 books. And today we're going to talk about my February reading wrap-up. I have my little notes right here to tell you what I read because honestly I would forget. You can follow me on Goodreads if you want to see exactly when I read these, and sometimes I talk about them on Instagram, so you can kind of follow me on Instagram. It's Kelly Martin Author, and you can kind of see my thoughts on all these. But I did really good in February. I think I read 7 books, which is awesome for me, I think. And the interesting thing is that they're all horror. Honestly, that's all I've read this year is horror, which is weird. Now I've read one like craft book, marketing book, but other than that, all my books that I've read this year have been horror, which I think is very interesting. I do have one on my TBR that's not horror. It's the 4th in the Stalking Jack the Ripper series. I have that one. I've just not started yet. Oh, and I am reading a Jane Austen book with Hannah Tay on her channel, on her Patreon. So it's not horror, but it's the only non-horror book that I'm reading it now. I'm currently reading it, so it'll be on my March TBR, or my March wrap-up, not my TBR, my March wrap-up. Anyway, I've rambled. So, I've read 7 books, like I said. The first one is Teeth in the Mist by Dawn Kurtajich. I love her. I love her books. I love her Instagram. It's so pretty, y'all. I wish I could have an Instagram as pretty as her book. Or as pretty as her book, as pretty as her Instagram. Her books are very pretty, too. It's about 3 different people in 3 different time periods. We have one in the current day, one in 1851, which was my favorite timeline, and then one in like the 1600s. It's awesome. I've talked about it a lot on my channel, and it was the very first book of hers that I read. I read another one in the month too, but the second book I read last month was The Monster of Edo Haven. I wish I could speak properly. The Monster of Edo Haven by Jennifer Gesbrecht. And it was on audiobook. Was not what I was expecting at all. I can't really tell you what it's about because I don't know if I followed it really closely. That's the thing about me and audiobooks. I'm not great at listening to audiobooks because it turns into background noise while I'm doing something else, and that's not a way to read a book. But I just know it was kind of weird. Kind of weird. The next one I read was Half Minute Horrors, and this one is really cute. I should have brought it in here with me, but it's really cute. It's like 70 short middle grade horror stories by like Neil Gaiman and R.L. Stine and people like that. They're really good, and some of them are graphic novel drawings, illustrations, stories, and some of them are like, you know, page and a half, but they're really good. If you have a middle grader or if you love middle grade books, it's a great one to read with your kids. I think it would be like one to read every night. It's really cool. I liked it. Be sure to pick it up, and it's not overly scary. Like it's not really not. It's good. Then I read The Dead House by Dawn Kurtajich again. Well, not again. I read her book again. I read her as an author again. But The Dead House is about a girl with a split personality, and it's told in diary entries and YouTube video footage, actually like a file, and they have scribed it down. And is that what it's called? Scribed? Probably not. You know what I'm talking about. And transcribed. That's what I'm trying to say. It was transcribed down. And they had, and this thing happens, and you know it's like 81 days until the day, and you know something's going to happen, but you don't know what. It's really, really interesting because both personalities have a journal, and they don't talk to each other, but they do leave notes to each other. One is only in the daylight, and one only comes out at night. It's really interesting reading about their interactions because they don't see each other. They just leave notes. And then one of the personalities is really upset. And I can't remember their names. That's why I'm saying it like that. But the nighttime personality is upset because the daytime personality has stopped leaving notes and she don't know where she is. It's really cool. It's an interesting story, so be sure to check that one out. I also read Guest by Mary Down & Hahn. It is a middle grade horror book. That's what Mary Down & Hahn does. She writes middle grade horror. She's one of my favorite authors. I will say this is not one of my favorite books, but it's a changeling tale. But it was a good story. It was really well told. The characters were awesome. I love the story arc of the little girl. And Guest is actually her brother. She's supposed to be watching her brother, but things happened and she wasn't watching him, and he got traded for a changeling, and they named him Guest because he was a guest in their home. And then she takes Guest into the woods to try to find the fairies to try to switch out the brothers. It's interesting. It really is. It's really fast read. It just wasn't my favorite Mary Down & Hahn book, but that's like saying you have a least favorite type of ice cream. I mean, it's still ice cream, so it's still awesome. Next, for the Leap into Horror Fiction readathon, I read Parasite by Darcy Coats. I've already talked about that in another video, but it's, I didn't know it at the time, it's a series of short stories. It was to fill the alien horror section of the bingo card. I liked it. I love Darcy Coats too. I was actually at my bookstore. I do have these books. I was at my local bookstore. They had 2 Darcy Coats books. I was so excited. She is an indie author, and I was just happy that somebody in Tennessee knew who she was and had read her books. I loved them. I picked them up. I'm happy. I can't wait to read them. So, anyway, saying all that, I love Darcy Coats. I think she's a wonderful writer, just like Mary Down & Hahn. Parasite was not my favorite book she's ever read of hers, but it was also my very first alien horror I've ever read, and that might have a lot to do with it. The last book that I read last month was The Drowning by Rachel Ward. It was, I already talked about that in the Leap into Horror Fiction wrap-up too, but it was about, there was 3 sort of friends, 2 brothers and a girl. The brother died. The other brother had amnesia and couldn't remember it, and the girl, she's just kind of a wild card in the situation. The boy's brother keeps trying to get him to kill the girl, and you have to it's like a mystery to try to figure out what's happening there. So I liked it. It was different. It was interesting, and I will definitely read another one of Rachel Ward's books again. Be sure to subscribe to this channel if you would like more videos. I talk about writing, I talk about reading, talk about all things in between. And like this video if you liked it in any kind of way. Leave a comment and tell me what your favorite book you read this month was, or February was, and what your least favorite book was. Fingers crossed your least favorite book is not a Kelly Martin book, but if it is, it's okay. Be sure, it's fine. You can tell me. I can take it. Yeah. I will see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching, and I very much appreciate it. Bye.